thoughts on Mercurial. This is a game of casting spells and performing heroic actions. I do have to say before we go any further that this game was sent to us by the lovely folks at Good Games Publishing, so thank you very much to them, just so you can keep that in mind when you're hearing our thoughts. And our thoughts are all based on what we would prefer to play if given the opportunity. We don't like to rank games here based on like comparing this to Ark Nova or this to Exploding Kittens. You can't compare apples to oranges, but what we can do is put it on our Nerds of the West ranking list at the end, which ranks all those little intangibles, how much fun we had, how long the game takes to set up, the space that it takes up, all the little things, so we can say, yeah, we would want to check this game out over any other game if given the opportunity. Lachlan, can you give us a brief overview of this game? Because there is a lot of hieroglyphics, but what are we actually doing?
So the aim of the game is to be the first player to reach a number of heroic spells cast. In our case, because we're playing a 4-player game, it was to get to 3. It's different when you have a different number of players. To cast those spells, you need to acquire spells. To acquire spells, you need to have alterations which allow you to manipulate your dice to buy those spells. Because spells, to purchase them or take them from their row or from the market, require to either have the cost in the die symbol. At the start of the game, you're going to roll all your dice, and that's it. They're stuck in that formation unless you can manipulate them. You do have a set of alteration cards, which you can, on your turn, take an alteration and play an alteration on your turn, or you can play an alteration to manipulate your dice to then be able to take a spell. So everything sort of works into each other to try and manipulate your dice and using your economy of mana to be able to purchase more spells, which will then allow you to unleash a heroic spell, getting them for victory points. So I think that is basically...
With one quick side note, that if you nail it perfectly, there are two kinds of spells, both Ruin and Restoration. If you are perfectly equal, you'll get an extra bonus, some extra power, and that way get more power out of less cards.
Because you're trying to balance with your spells between Ruin and Restore, so you don't want to take too many, you don't want to mix and match the both. But if you get to that situation that you do, you could meet equilibrium because they cancel each other out.
I'm going to start real simple because we have a lot of thoughts on the gameplay. This game is gorgeous. This game, we've played a lot of magical themed games, and this game reminds me a lot of Seasons, where you are rolling dice to then use the dice to take actions and have symbols. While this is, you're not allowed to roll the dice, but you're manipulating them. And I love a good dice manipulation game. Like, it's a really fun thing where you go, all right, here's some chance of random luck from rolling the dice. Here's some symbols that you get from other things. Use those to buy things. The component quality of all of this really ties into that feel of chaotic magic. And the art is just... It's beautiful. It's nice. Everything looks different, from the people that you're playing as to the monsters you're defeating to the spells that you're casting.
I would say this is probably one of the most beautiful games we've played this year. The use of full art as well, as opposed to having borders or other things. And it is very symbol heavy, which is, in many ways, can be quite overwhelming at the start. But once you get over that symbol understanding, familiarizing yourself with the symbols, then you can then appreciate more of the art, and they can make more room for good art, because you only need to know that this is converting earth, fire, any two of them into a void, and it becomes quite simple once you know what you've got, and that makes more room for the gorgeous art. Spells are absolutely fantastic, and all the small details,
so much variety.
Even the empowered spells where they've only got like the small symbols on the side. It's very subtle. Everything is very, very subtle.
Which makes it a little bit hard to learn at first when there are so many symbols and you're trying to figure out what everything does. But as Lachlan said, once you're over that hump, everything starts clicking.
And even if you're not sure, the reference cards that actually came with it are actually really good.
Yeah.
And it was clear enough that, like, for instance, on the alteration cards where it's like, oh, you got the hand on the card, and it means that's how many alteration additional cards you can play. Like, it made it really easy to, what can I do here? Actually, I can do this because this is what that does. Off I go.
Yeah. Speaking of all the things you can do, there's a lot to do in this game. You can't specialize in one thing because you don't know what spells are going to come out for you to be able to go. So if you go, I'm going to do rock, and then there's no rock spells, you're just wasting your time waiting to see if that comes out. And if it does come out, someone else just grabs it before you. So being flexible matters in this game.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think we put enough weight onto the alteration cards early on.
I mean, I did, and it worked out okay.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Better than everyone. That was last play. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, no, speaking of the last play, and that is where this game comes down to, is regardless of how much you mitigate the luck, and this isn't a bad thing, this is just where it sits, regardless of how much you mitigate the luck is there. Yeah. If there isn't the spell that you're able to cast, you're not able to purchase it. If you even do purchase the spell, but the monsters that are there are weaker than what you're able to cast, but the rest of them are too strong, your point value for the actions you took is so much less than everyone else.
But I think that comes into the pressure of it, right? Because it's a competitive game, so therefore you need to set yourself in a way that you can get to that heroic spell before anyone else, getting the right things that you need. And yeah, there is a bit of gymnastics in that, but having the right alterations, having the amount of pick and play, there is enough variety in there that everyone can play differently and work around that. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I understand that it is.
I think it's just worth pointing out because simply for how long this game takes.
I think
this is sitting in that medium, like definitely medium, pushing towards heavy. I wouldn't call it medium heavy, but it's a little bit more than just medium.
Definitely medium.
This game will take probably half an hour per player. So there is the chance, however small, because you always have options, there is the chance that you will not get to do anything that moves you towards victory.
I think we didn't utilize the take of the alteration option a lot either. We all had a whole bunch of alteration cards. Like you used it to re-roll a bunch. I think you did the first secondary take in the second on your second heroic kind of area, and then the last round was when everyone was like, "Oh, let's just do double takes and stuff." Which, if we did that from the beginning, that would speed it up.
Yeah, but I mean, the cards have a lot of options as well. You've got the addition, you've got the primary, and some have like additional things. You've got your secondary. You've also got the take. You've got the extra symbols if you can get that working in your favor by having the additional symbols. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think where the game would stretch out is similar to Istanbul or other games where you have to wait your 3 rounds before it comes back to you. And if you're going for a particular spell card, like Tom said, if there's only one stone card on the field and you've rolled stone and you don't have the alterations to be able to manipulate your die into be able to get the other cards because you've only got stone, it can be a little bit difficult. And then you have to replan your turn on your turn.
Yes.
Because there's 3 people taking cards, playing cards that are going to change the market. So you can plan for your turn, but you are more than likely going to have to replan it when it comes to your turn.
Yeah.
Which is what stretches it out.
How did you find that planning, Chris? Like were you able to actually do anything, or was it just on your turn?
I think I might have had a different game because most of the plans that I had in motion were untouched by you guys, and I got to do exactly what I wanted to do. But certainly there were times where you're kind of on the fly having to rearrange what you're thinking, and also managing the maths involved. Like you're trying to make equilibrium, for example, and then you're also trying to count how many mana crystals that's going to cost you and what your subsequent turn is going to look like if you spend these resources now or if you don't play a card. So it's like a lot of mental cognition going on. And yes, you have 3 turns in between to do that work so that when it comes to your turn, you can just get it over and done with and pass. But like Lachlan explained, it's not always going to be the case. So for some of us,
some games it's going to be smooth sailing, other games.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And it's just a question of whether or not that is the kind of game that you want to play. Because I found the flow of the game going from manipulate to take to purchase to buy, like that was all really satisfying. When you're like, all right, I've got these cards, I can do this next turn, I can manipulate the dice on that turn and then hopefully take a spell. It's just when you're stuck in between that things get difficult, where you're like, I can't play anything good to set me up, but I can't take a spell right now, so I can't do a lot, that the game starts to really just slow.
I think as you get better at it, you will be able to look at the alterations from the start and go, this is what I've got, this is what I can convert. this is what I need. And other games have this similar thing where you've got that dice manipulation where it's like you might have a fire, but fire is not going to do anything for fire. It's like you've got to look at what the alternative is and how you're going to do it. And you need to then learn the symbolism of what's converting what into what. So you might be a fire-heavy character, but then you might be like, actually, my hand needs to be more water because I need to be able to convert water into fire to make my thing work for me. If you've seen that in like other games where it's like you see a lot of the symbol, you go, I'm a fire player, there's a lot of fire symbols, but in reality you're hunting for the opposite to work in your favor.
I think one of the things I found that I would have liked to see more emphasis on in this is the spirit bonds, which are like the little sword symbols on the cards, or whatever you want to call them, these little sigils. They felt, for the most part, mostly irrelevant.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't even think it was like, it's a nice added boon. We didn't really get that.
Every so often you got an extra.
Like if they were in the spells as well, that'd probably be great. Like just that with that little extra boon, cool.
I think if anything, it should be, instead of additional, it should be a times. So if you have the sigil, you get
some of them
one times.
So, some of them are, that's the thing. But as Jimmy said, like this one, you need 2 to be able to do it. So it just.
Like
it depends where you're sitting.
Some of the, because you only get them through doing the heroics, you only get them from like most of the higher scoring ones. Like this one had 2 on them. Like you kind of just like, okay, cool, great, that's worth something, and I didn't use it.
Yeah, it's all those simplicities and nuances that every small bit adds up to something. It's not always going to be big swings left and right.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of big swings left and right and up and down, let's put it on the list. Right. This, as I said, is our Nerds of the West ranking list, where we rank games not based on any objective quality, just if given the opportunity, what we would prefer to play.
Oh, I don't know about those things.
We're going to try it.
Made of plastic.
Yeah, everything's made of plastic.
Everything.
Drop them down.
Get the cup.
It just needs
Get it go.
No, it needs to just be like 3.
Yeah, those are
Just 3?
All
All
right.
All right.
That's all right.
What was that?
That's me.
Oh,
So this is our list as it stands for 2024.
I hate it.
Just put the 2 at the top wider out or something.
It's fine. This is our list as it stands for 2024, with a lot of quite heady games we've played, between your Ark Novas and then a few other things just being a little bit more simple. I like this game. I enjoy the back and forth of it. But as I've played more and more board games, any game with too much randomness just slips down a little bit for me. I'm happy to check them out and see how they play.
Are you telling me that you only play Euros and that's the only thing you'll accept?
And that's pretty much what it comes down to, is I am more of a Euro player. So this game is going to sit below Bark Avenue for me. It's fun, it's decent, it's engaging, it's cool, but I want more control out of a gameplay experience when it needs so much brain work.
For me, I haven't played Coffee Rush or Bark Avenue. I have played Armello, and I would play Armello over this. I would lead in to this game with... I'd be happy to actually play Armello and then lead into this game. I think there's a lot of components, not in terms of like necessarily setup, but like you've got to look at these quite closely. They're out of small image. You've got to find those cards, put them there. That's fine. The art's gorgeous. I think it looks great. But yeah, just the time. Like you've all said it. Gets to your turn, the fields change a lot. You have to change your turn maybe. So it gets more thinky, longer. It's a hair medium game. So I'd go under Armello.
All right.
Chris, got any thoughts?
I really enjoyed this game. I know it felt fulfilling. I benefited from not having my turn ruined by other players, so maybe that would change my opinion otherwise. But just the design of it, I think, is very well balanced. I think the ruin and the restore aspect of it was very clever. So I would probably play this at the same enthusiasm as Ark Nova. So I'd probably put it right there.
Nice. I mean, yeah, the equilibrium mechanic was quite interesting, where it's like you're either going for ruin or you're going to restore, or if you can't meet either of them, you can try and work your way somewhere in between to then meet equilibrium and get a decent score out of it, which is fantastic. Art is absolutely fantastic. Components are great. I do enjoy a good dice manipulation game, and that has exactly this. Tom is right where the market is a little bit slow, or the market randomness, because that's where the randomness comes in. It's not really the dice that are the issue. It's the market that's the random part, which is not what I was expecting. I thought you've got dice. It's going to be the dice that are the actual random part of the game, because that's normally what you associate, because you've got the rolling aspect as opposed to the card draw balance. I really enjoyed this. I would definitely love to play this again. I think James was right where like a mellow would be the sort of weight comparison of what I'd rather play. And I think I'd like to play it above a mellow instead of below it, just because the setup time is far easier and quicker. It is a card game, but still board game elements of having dice and chits and gems. So there's enough to it that it's not just strictly a card game. But yeah, I think above a melee, because the setup is so much easier, and the satisfaction of casting the spells and the economy and the variety in people's characters.
I'm very keen to play it again, and hopefully we will get a chance to play it again, because many other people at Nerds need to play this before we re-rank the list at the end of the year. Everyone gets to give their thoughts, but also you can give us your thoughts on Mercurial. Excuse me. Any other game that we play. We love hearing what people are up to in the comments on Discord. Joining us live when we do this live, we have been Lachlan.
Hello.
Jimmy.
Thank you very much.
Chris.
So long.
My name is Tom. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you next time.